Under the cold lights of Arlington's police station, a black woman walks in, unrecognized as the new police chief. Cutting insults, scornful glares, then a brutal punch from an arrogant officer. He didn't know that punch would shatter his own career. When the truth erupts, the station falls silent. What's the cost of prejudice? Uncover this journey of justice. Like, share, and subscribe to catch more gripping, meaningful stories. Under the dim Arlington dawn, a modest southern city, the Arlington Police Department stood like an aging fortress where outdated attitudes and racial biases still quietly reigned. In the humid morning air, Cassandra, Cass, stepped through the station's glass doors, poised to become its first black police chief. But today, she wore no uniform, no badge, just black jeans, a crisp white shirt, and a navy blazer. With short, curly hair tied back and piercing eyes, she looked unassuming, but each step carried the weight of 22 years tackling crime in tough precincts. She wanted to observe, not as a leader, but as a black woman entering a system steeped in prejudice. The station's air was heavy, as if its worn walls whispered of buried injustices. At the front desk, 3 white officers clustered, laughing loudly, clutching steaming coffee cups. In a corner, a middle-aged black man sat on a waiting bench, gripping a paper, eyes anxious. He'd been ignored for over 30 minutes. Cassandra paused, her gaze sweeping the room, noting every detail. An older officer with salt and pepper hair glanced at the man, muttering to a colleague. Another guy here to make a fuss, probably suing over a bad arrest. The younger officer smirked. Let's see what he wants this time. Bet it's a payout. Anger simmered in Cassandra, but she stayed silent, approaching the desk. Behind the counter, young Officer Tommy Gaines hunched over his phone, fingers swiping rapidly. Cassandra cleared her throat. Tommy looked up, eyeing her head to toe with blatant disdain. "What do you want?" he asked brusquely, voice devoid of respect. "I need to see HR to finalize paperwork," Cassandra replied, her tone calm but sharp, eyes locked on his. Tommy raised an eyebrow, a mocking smile curling his lips. "HR? You sure? This ain't a community outreach center, lady." He turned back to his phone, dismissing her. Cassandra's grip tightened, but her voice remained steady. "I'm sure. Direct me to HR or call the person in charge." Tommy shrugged, not looking up. "Wait, I'm busy." He resumed scrolling, leaving her standing there. Cassandra memorized his face. The apathy, the unprofessionalism, the judgmental stare. She glanced at the black man in the corner, his eyes now heavy with resignation. "Sir," she called softly, stepping closer. "How long have you been waiting?" The man looked up, surprised. "Over half an hour, ma'am. Just want to ask about a case, but no one cares." Cassandra nodded, her voice gentle but firm. "I hear you. I'll make sure you're helped." He offered a faint smile. "Thanks, but they don't listen here." Before Cassandra could respond, a deep, authoritative voice cut through. "What's going on?" She turned to face Lieutenant Frank Coleman, a white man in his 40s, tall and muscular with icy blue eyes. His badge gleamed, but his gaze dripped with judgment. Coleman crossed his arms, sizing her up. "Who are you, and what are you doing here?" Cassandra stayed composed, meeting his stare. "I need to see HR to complete work paperwork." Coleman smirked, stepping closer. "Paperwork? Think you can waltz in here making demands? Another frivolous lawsuit." Cassandra felt her blood heat, but she held steady, voice even. "No lawsuit. I have business with HR. Can you assist, or should I find them myself?" Coleman glanced at Tommy, grinning. "Hear that, Tommy? She wants HR. Maybe applying for a cleaning job." Laughter erupted from nearby officers, cutting like knives. Cassandra didn't flinch, her eyes fixed on Coleman. I'm not applying. I need the HR lead. If you can't help, get someone who can." Coleman advanced, his voice dropping, menacing. "I don't like your attitude. We don't have time for people like you here." "People like me?" Cassandra countered, voice icy, eyes unwavering. "What do you mean, Lieutenant?" Coleman sneered, tilting his head. "You know what I mean. Don't waste our time. Get out now." Cassandra stood her ground, eyes blazing. "I'm not leaving until I see who I came for." The station's air grew taut like a string about to snap. Nearby officers fell silent, eyes fixed on Cassandra and Coleman. A female clerk in the corner backed away, clutching files, her face tense. The black man on the bench looked up, whispering to himself, "She's got guts." Coleman, sensing a challenge, closed the gap, growling, "You want trouble? Last warning, leave or I'll make you." Cassandra didn't budge, her stare piercing. "You have no authority to remove me. Call HR or I'll find them myself." Coleman's fists clenched, anger flashing in his eyes. "Playing tough? You'll regret this." Cassandra sensed the danger in his tone, but she didn't yield. Each moment was a test, not just for her, but for the rotten system she was about to confront. She stood tall, resolute, ready for what came next. Deep down, she knew this was the spark of a justice storm that would reshape Arlington forever. The air in the Arlington Police Department crackled with tension, the cold fluorescent lights casting harsh shadows on the gray walls, amplifying the standoff between Cassandra Reynolds and Lieutenant Frank Coleman. Cassandra stood firm, her sharp gaze locked on Coleman, whose clenched fists and icy blue eyes burned with fury. The murmurs from nearby officers faded, leaving only Coleman's heavy breathing and the pounding of Cassandra's heart. The female clerk in the corner gripped her files tightly, her eyes flickering between fear and curiosity, while the black man on the waiting bench bowed his head, whispering a prayer. Coleman, feeling his authority challenged, took another step forward, his voice low and menacing. "Who do you think you are, giving orders here? I said get out, now." Cassandra stayed calm, her eyes unblinking. "I'm not leaving. I have the right to be served like anyone else. Call HR or I'll find them myself." Coleman let out a harsh laugh, the sound echoing in the silent room. "Rights? You've been watching too many lawyer shows, girl. Here, I'm the law." He turned to the nearby officer, smirking. "Hear that? She thinks she's the star of some Hollywood flick." A few officers chuckled, but not all joined in. A young officer with brown hair, standing near the door, stepped back, unease in his eyes. "Maybe we should call HR, Lieutenant," he said softly, voice hesitant. Coleman glared at him, snarling, "Shut it, Danny. I'm handling this." He faced Cassandra again, eyes venomous. "What do you want? A ticket to jail for disturbing the peace?" Cassandra didn't waver, her voice icy but composed. "I'm not disturbing anything. I'm asking for fair treatment. If you can't provide that, let someone else do it." Coleman pointed at her face, closing the gap. "Fair? You think you deserve that? People like you just stir up trouble and blame the police." "People like me?" Cassandra shot back, her voice cutting through the air like a blade. "You mean my skin color, or the fact that a woman isn't scared of you?" The room fell deathly silent. The officers' laughter died, their eyes darting nervously. The clerk, now pressed against the wall, whispered to a colleague, "She's not afraid of him. I can't believe it." Coleman, stung by the jab, gritted his teeth. "You've got a mouth on you, but here, your words mean nothing." He turned to Tommy Gaines, the young officer at the desk, who stared at the scene. "Tommy, write her up, disturbing the peace." Tommy hesitated, his pen trembling. "But Lieutenant, she just asked for HR. Maybe we should—" "Do it," Coleman barked, making Tommy flinch. He started typing, but his eyes flicked to Cassandra, sensing something was wrong. Cassandra, never breaking eye contact with Coleman, spoke slowly. "You're making a mistake. I'm giving you one last chance. Call HR or you'll pay the price." Coleman laughed, but unease crept into his eyes. "Pay? You're threatening an officer? You know where you are." "I know exactly," Cassandra replied, her voice low but commanding. "And I know you're digging your own grave. Stop before it's too late." The station's air felt frozen, the tension palpable. Nearby officers backed away, sensing the escalation. The black man on the bench looked up, his eyes no longer just anxious, but tinged with hope. "She's not scared of him," he whispered to himself. "She really isn't."
Coleman, his authority slipping, closed in, his breath heavy. "You want to play tough? Fine." He grabbed Cassandra's arm, squeezing hard, yanking her toward the door. "Out, now!" Cassandra, though pulled, held her stance, her eyes unflinching. "Let go," she said, her voice low but razor-sharp. "You're crossing a line." Coleman didn't stop, tugging harder. "I said, get out! Don't make me get rough!" In a flash, Cassandra twisted her wrist, breaking his grip with a practiced move, sending him stumbling. The room went silent, only Coleman's sharp breaths audible. The officers froze, stunned that a woman dared resist. The clerk gasped, covering her mouth. "What did she just do?" she whispered to her colleague. Coleman regained his balance, his eyes blazing. "You dare touch me?" he roared, lunging forward, fist clenched as if to strike. "You'll regret that." Cassandra stood her ground, her gaze steady. "I didn't touch you. I protected myself. But if you keep going, you'll be the one regretting." Coleman, humiliated before his peers, turned to the officers. "You see that? She's resisting arrest. Cuff her." Danny stepped forward, but his eyes betrayed doubt. "Lieutenant, maybe we should cool off. She hasn't done anything wrong." Coleman glared, snarling. "You want a suspension, Danny? Cuff her, now!" Danny bowed his head, but before he could move, a sharp voice rang out from the door. "Stop this!" A female officer, hair tied high, strode in, her expression stern. "Lieutenant Coleman, what are you doing? She just asked for HR." Coleman spun, eyes flashing. "Stay out of this, Sarah. I'm dealing with a troublemaker." Sarah shook her head, moving closer to Cassandra. "She's not causing trouble. She has a right to be here. Call HR instead of escalating." Cassandra glanced at Sarah, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes, but she stayed silent. Coleman, feeling cornered, bellowed, "Enough! Both of you, out, or I'll handle this myself." Cassandra, her gaze unwavering, spoke slowly. "You can't handle this, Lieutenant. You're destroying yourself. Stop before it's too far gone." Coleman, losing control, clenched his fist, eyes alight with hostility. "You want to see what happens when I'm done being patient? Fine." The station felt like a powder keg. Officers stood frozen, none daring to intervene. The clerk pressed against the wall, hands trembling. The black man stood, eyes wide with fear. "Don't do it, man," he shouted, but his voice drowned in the tension. Cassandra, sensing the critical moment, stood tall, her eyes locked on Coleman. She knew each second brought her closer to the truth, a truth that would shake this system to its core. The Arlington Police Department simmered like a storm about to break, the flickering fluorescent lights casting stark shadows that heightened the clash between Cassandra Reynolds and Lieutenant Frank Coleman. Coleman, fists clenched, his icy blue eyes blazing with rage, stood mere steps from Cassandra, his heavy breaths like a cornered beast. Cassandra, her gaze razor-sharp and unyielding, stood like a fortress, defying the looming threat. The surrounding officers fell silent, their eyes darting between fear and curiosity.
Officer Sarah Taylor, who just intervened, stepped back, her expression uneasy but resolute. The clerk in the corner, still clutching her files, whispered to a colleague, "This is bad. He's about to do something awful." The black man by the waiting bench, now standing, muttered anxiously, Don't do it." Coleman, his authority publicly challenged, roared, his voice echoing through the room. "You think you can stand here, defy me, and walk away? You don't know who you're messing with." Cassandra, her voice low but commanding, locked eyes with him. "I know exactly who you are. A man who thinks power means bullying others. But today, you picked the wrong fight." Coleman laughed, a harsh, defiant sound. "Wrong fight? You're just a troublemaker, and I'll show you the price of crossing me." He turned to the nearby officers, barking, "What are you standing there for? Cuff her, now!" Officer Danny Whitaker, near the door, stepped forward, but his eyes betrayed doubt. "Lieutenant, maybe we should check first. She hasn't done anything wrong." Coleman's glare could have burned through steel. "You want to be fired, Danny? I said cuff her." Danny lowered his head, hand brushing the cuffs on his belt, but Sarah Taylor stepped up, her voice sharp. "Stop, Danny. Lieutenant Coleman, you're out of control. She just asked for HR. That's not a crime." Coleman spun towards Sarah, eyes venomous. "You defying me too, Taylor? Don't make me deal with you next." Sarah didn't flinch, meeting his stare. "I'm not defying you. I'm following procedure. Call HR instead of blowing this up." Cassandra, a flicker of gratitude in her glance at Sarah, turned back to Coleman, her voice icy. "Listen to her. You still have a chance to stop. Don't trap yourself in a corner you can't escape." Coleman, feeling cornered, gritted his teeth, his eyes flaring with hostility. "You're lecturing me? I've been here 15 years and no one tells me what to do." He closed in, jabbing a finger at her. "You want me to get rough? Fine." The room's air seemed to solidify. Officers stood frozen, none daring to intervene. The clerk covered her mouth, eyes wide, whispering, "He's going to hit her." Then, in a reckless flash, Coleman swung, his fist slamming into Cassandra's shoulder. She stumbled, crashing to the floor with a dull thud. Laughter erupted from a few officers, but Sarah shouted, "Stop it! You're out of your mind, Coleman!" The black man rushed forward, his voice trembling. "How dare you hit her? She didn't do anything." Cassandra, pain searing her shoulder, slowly pushed herself up, her eyes never leaving Coleman. "You think that punch will break me?" she said, her voice low but commanding. "You're wrong. You just broke yourself." Coleman, still belligerent, roared, "Want another? Cuff her, now." Danny, backing away, shook his head. "No, Lieutenant, I'm not doing that. Something's off here." Sarah stepped in front of Cassandra, blocking Coleman. "Enough, Coleman. You're making a huge mistake. Stop, now." Coleman, eyes bloodshot, bellowed, "Both of you shut it. I'll drag you out myself." He lunged, grabbing Cassandra's arm again, but she pivoted, deflecting his grip with a swift, practiced move. "Don't touch me," she said, her voice cutting like a blade. "You have no right." The room fell silent, only Coleman's ragged breaths audible. The officers stood stunned, unprepared for a woman to resist him. The clerk, trembling, whispered, "She's incredible." Coleman, humiliated, screamed, "You dare resist an officer? I'll show you consequences." He raised his fist again, but before it could land, the HR office door flew open. An older man with salt and pepper hair, clutching a file, stormed out, his face ashen. "Stop this now!" he shouted, voice quaking with shock. "Good God, what are you doing? She's the new police chief." The air seemed to vanish. Coleman froze, fist mid-air, his eyes wide with horror. "What? No way," he stammered, voice fading. Cassandra stood tall, her gaze a dagger, piercing Coleman. "That's right, Lieutenant. I'm your new boss, and you just assaulted your superior." Danny, near the door, backed away, muttering, "We're done. We're really done." Sarah, her resolve unshaken, turned to Coleman. "You went too far. Face the consequences." The clerk, now closer, whispered to her colleague, "I knew it. She's no ordinary woman." The black man by the bench smiled faintly, hope in his eyes. "She's gonna change everything. I know it." Coleman, pale as a ghost, staggered back, hands trembling. I didn't know. If I'd known, I wouldn't have." Cassandra stepped forward, her voice cold but commanding. "You didn't need to know who I was to treat me like a human. You chose wrong, and now you'll pay." The station felt like a bomb had detonated. Officers lowered their heads, avoiding Cassandra's gaze. Her shoulder throbbed, but her eyes burned with conviction. She knew this moment wasn't just her victory. It was the dawn of a justice revolution in Arlington. The Arlington Police Department was suffused with a stifling tension, as if time had frozen after the HR manager's shout. Flickering fluorescent lights bathed Lieutenant Frank Coleman's ashen face, his fist still hovering mid-air. Cassandra Reynolds, her gaze sharp as a blade, stood resolute, her shoulder throbbing from his punch, yet exuding unyielding strength. The surrounding officers, from those who'd mocked to those who'd stayed silent, now bowed their heads, eyes flickering between horror and regret. Officer Sarah Taylor, standing protectively near Cassandra, held a steadfast gaze, while young Officer Danny Whitaker pressed against the wall, muttering, "God, what have we done?" The clerk, hands trembling around her files, whispered to a colleague, "She's the chief. I knew she was special." The black man by the waiting bench, eyes gleaming with hope, clenched his fists, witnessing a historic moment. Cassandra took a step forward, her voice low but resonant, silencing the room. "Lieutenant Coleman, you just assaulted a senior officer in your own station. Arrest him, now." The room erupted. Coleman staggered back, hands shaking, his voice cracking. "No, this is a misunderstanding. I can't. You can't do this." Sarah advanced, her eyes icy. "Misunderstanding? You hit her in front of us all. There's no excuse, Coleman." Two officers, after a moment's hesitation, grabbed Coleman's arms. The cuffs clicked shut, their sound cold as a verdict. Coleman thrashed, yelling, "Let me go! I'm a lieutenant! You have no right!" Cassandra, her gaze unwavering, spoke slowly. "Right. You stripped me and others like me of respect, thinking you're above everyone. Now you'll learn what consequences mean." Coleman, face flushed, turned to the officers, desperate. "Say something! I was doing my job! She provoked me!" No one spoke. Those who'd laughed now averted their eyes. Danny, gripping his belt, muttered, "I told you to stop. I told you." Sarah shook her head, voice dripping with disdain. "Doing your job by assaulting someone unprovoked, you destroyed yourself, Coleman." The clerk, now closer, shouted, voice trembling, "Take him away! He doesn't deserve to be a cop." Her older colleague nodded, whispering, "She's right. He's a disgrace to this place." The black man stepped forward, his voice firm. "Ma'am, you did the right thing. I've been here, ignored, disrespected, but you'll change everything." Cassandra met his gaze, her expression softening. "Thank you. I promise things will be different." Coleman, cuffed and struggling, glared wildly. "You think you've won? You won't last here. They won't let you." Cassandra approached, her eyes piercing. "They? You mean people like you who think power lets them trample others?
They'll change or they'll be gone." The cuffs tightened, and Coleman was dragged away, his voice fading. "You'll regret this. I swear you'll regret it." The door slammed, plunging the room into silence. Cassandra's gaze swept the remaining officers. "Who else thinks like him?" she asked, voice sharp. "Who believes they can insult, threaten, or attack someone because they're different? Speak now, because I won't tolerate it." No one dared respond. An older officer in the corner removed his cap, eyes downcast. We were wrong, ma'am," he said, voice shaky. "We didn't know." "Didn't know?" Cassandra cut in, eyes blazing. "You didn't need to know who I was to treat me like a person. But you chose silence, laughter, or to stand by. That's your failure." Sarah stepped forward, voice quiet but firm. "Ma'am, not everyone's like Coleman. I want to work under you, to change this place." Cassandra nodded, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. "Thank you, Taylor. I need people like you. But change doesn't come from one person. It comes from all of us." The clerk, regaining composure, approached, handing Cassandra a file. "Your paperwork, ma'am. I'm sorry for not speaking up sooner." Cassandra took it, her voice gentle but resolute. "It's never too late to do right. Remember that." HR manager Harold Grayson, still pale by the door, stammered, I didn't expect this to happen. I'll report to the higher-ups immediately. Coleman will face a full investigation." Cassandra's gaze was piercing. "Not just Coleman. I want this entire system reviewed. Every discriminatory act, every covered-up case, it's all coming to light." Harold nodded, sweat beading on his brow. "Yes, ma'am, I'll start now." Meanwhile, in the department's executive office, phones rang incessantly. Chief Administrator Ellen Carter received Harold's report. "The new chief was assaulted?" she shouted, shocked. "What did Coleman do? God, this'll hit the news." Harold, voice urgent, replied, "He's detained, but a video, it's out. Staff recorded it." Ellen gripped the phone, eyes worried. "Emergency meeting. Call legal, call PR. We need to control this before it's too big." Back at the station, Cassandra motioned for Sarah and Danny to escort her to HR. As she walked, officers parted, forming a path, their eyes no longer scornful, but awed. The black man saluted her, voice thick. "You're our hope, ma'am. Don't give up." Cassandra paused, meeting his gaze. "I won't, I promise." In the HR office, Cassandra sat, her eyes scanning Harold and the staff. "I want every file on Coleman, every complaint, every report, and a list of all racial discrimination cases from the past 5 years." Harold nodded, wiping his brow. "Yes, ma'am, I'll prepare them immediately." Sarah, by the door, spoke softly. "Ma'am, I can help. I know of covered-up cases. I want to do what's right." Cassandra nodded, eyes fierce with resolve. "Good. We'll work together, but this is just the first step." Outside, the video had gone viral, amassing thousands of shares. Coleman's punch and Cassandra's defiant rise became a symbol of resistance. An activist tweeted, "This is why we need change. She's the future of justice." In the office, Cassandra gazed out at the fiery sunset. She knew this storm wouldn't stop. It would sweep away the system's injustices. She was ready. "Let's begin," she said, her voice a declaration of war. The fiery sunset cast long shadows through the HR office window, where Cassandra Reynolds sat before a desk piled high with files. The Arlington Police Department's air remained heavy after the seismic confrontation, but now it carried a new weight, a silence born of those sensing the coming storm of justice. Cassandra, her gaze razor-sharp, flipped through Lieutenant Frank Coleman's records, noting buried complaints and ignored reports.
Officer Sarah Taylor stood near the door, her expression resolute, while young Officer Danny Whitaker quietly sorted documents under her orders. HR Manager Harold Grayson, sweat glistening, stood to the side, his voice unsteady. "We've gathered everything, ma'am. There are cases with Coleman we didn't handle properly." Cassandra looked up, her eyes piercing. "Didn't handle properly? You mean deliberately covered up? I want details, not just on Coleman, but on anyone in this system who enabled this." Harold nodded, voice faltering. "Yes, ma'am, I'll provide it all." Sarah stepped forward, placing another file on the desk, her voice steady. "Ma'am, this is from last year. Coleman falsely arrested a black civilian, and the report was doctored to protect him. I wanted to report it, but I was threatened." Cassandra met her gaze, a flicker of gratitude in her eyes. "You're doing the right thing now. We'll fix every wrong, no matter how long it takes." Danny, guilt in his eyes, spoke hesitantly. "I know things too, ma'am. Not just Coleman. Other officers, they think like him, but they're quieter about it. I want to help clean this place up." Cassandra nodded, her voice commanding. "Good. I need honesty from you all. This isn't just my fight, it's for everyone who wants justice." Meanwhile, in the executive office, Chief Executive Ellen Carter stared at her screen, watching the viral video of the incident spread like wildfire. Coleman's attack and Cassandra's unyielding stand had become a social media beacon. Ellen turned to her assistant, voice urgent. "Get legal now. We need a statement before the press tears us apart." The assistant, a young woman, shook her head. "The press is already outside, Mrs. Carter. Activists too. They're also demanding to meet the new chief." Ellen clenched her fists, eyes worried. What'll she say? If she slams the system publicly, we'll lose control. Back in the HR office, Cassandra stood, her gaze sweeping over Sarah and Danny. "Set up the meeting room. I want all officers there in 1 hour. It's time to lay down new rules." Sarah nodded, resolute. "I'll handle it, ma'am. But are you sure about facing everyone now? Some are still loyal to Coleman." Cassandra's faint smile held no doubt. They can be loyal to whomever they want, but if they don't stand for justice, they have no place in my force. An hour later, the department's large meeting room brimmed with officers, the air taut as a fraying rope. Cassandra entered in her chief's uniform, badge gleaming, each step a declaration. The officers fell silent, their eyes a mix of awe and fear. Sarah and Danny stood behind her, supportive. Cassandra gripped the microphone, her voice clear and powerful. "Today, you saw what happens when power is abused. A senior officer attacked me, not because I was wrong, but because he thought he could judge me by my skin and gender. But I'm not here to talk about me. I'm here to talk about this system, a system that's hidden injustice for too long." An older officer, gray-haired, raised a hand, voice tentative. "Ma'am, we didn't know who you were. If we had, we wouldn't have." Cassandra cut in, eyes sharp. "That's the problem. You shouldn't need to know who I am to treat me like a human. But you chose silence, enabled men like Coleman. That ends today." Sarah added, voice firm, "We've lost the public's trust. If we don't change, we don't deserve this uniform." A young blonde officer stood, voice shaky. "But ma'am, Coleman isn't everyone. How do we know you won't target us?" Cassandra met his gaze, voice steady. "I don't target. I demand accountability. Do right and you've nothing to fear. Choose Coleman's path and you're out." The room hushed, broken only by a lone clap from the black man, now invited as a witness. "She's right," he shouted. "I've been treated like trash here, but you give me hope." Applause spread, from cautious to thunderous. Cassandra raised a hand for silence. "Hope isn't enough. We need action. From today, every complaint will be investigated. Every act of bias will be punished. I won't stop until this force is a model of justice. 3 days later, at Arlington City Hall, Cassandra stood on a podium facing a sea of cameras and microphones. Hundreds of citizens, from activists to victims of injustice, held signs reading, "Justice for Arlington." In her uniform, eyes resolute, she spoke, her voice resounding. "I'm not here to prop up a broken system. I'm here to build a police force that respects every citizen, regardless of race, gender, or origin. Abusers like Lieutenant Coleman will be removed. I won't stop until justice is served." A young female reporter raised her hand. "Ma'am, how will you ensure this isn't just talk?" Cassandra faced the camera, voice sharp. "I've ordered an independent investigation into all discrimination cases from the past decade. Results will be public, and I'll oversee every change. Arlington's people deserve the truth." The crowd roared, applause like thunder. A girl holding a Dignity for All sign shouted, "We're with you!" Cassandra smiled, eyes alight with conviction. "Thank you, but justice isn't from one person, it's from all of us, speaking up, refusing to stay silent against wrong." At the station, Ellen watched the speech on TV, uneasy. "She's changing everything," she whispered to her assistant. "We adapt, or we're left behind." Cassandra stepped off the podium, gazing at the fading sunset. The road ahead was daunting, but she'd ignited a flame of truth, justice, and hope for a better Arlington. Cassandra Reynolds' story is a profound lesson in the power of resilience and courage against prejudice. Facing insults, violence, and injustice, she refused to yield, wielding truth to demand justice and transform a rotten system. Her lesson: injustice can only be defeated when we dare to confront it, dare to speak out, no matter the cost. Each of us has a duty to break the cycle of bias, starting with small acts like refusing to stay silent in the face of wrong. This isn't just Cassandra's story, it's the story of all who've been ignored or demeaned for their skin or origins. It reminds us that justice doesn't come freely, it requires relentless struggle. Let's build a fairer world where everyone's dignity is honored. Like, share, and subscribe for more inspiring stories where truth always finds its light.